Well, zigga zigga, the Spice Girls are back. When 4 become 3. Welcome back to ExtraTyne on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. It's been a little while. I've been a little bit nervous actually about starting this again, but I'm back. I'm in Canada. I'm in my little Newcastle dungeon, and as you can see this evening, I'm joined by the wonderful Scott, all the way from Amsterdam, and of course, all the way from his basement as well. Razza's been locked in there. He looks like he's in Nick. You look like Charles Bronson actually with that top on.
I thought you were going to see a scary face, but yeah, I'll take Bronson. Not to worry.
So yes, gentlemen, great to see you again. Scott, how's things in your world today?
Things are good. Looking forward to the match tomorrow night. Be nice to have a Friday and then have a bit of a weekend where I can actually do something instead of staying in to watch a match. But apart from that, yeah, all good on my side. Good to see you again, Roger. Although we did only speak last night for the match preview, but it's also good to see everyone in ExtraTyne, and it's also good to see Razza as well.
That is true. And coming down to you there, Razza, how are you doing, mate? How's things in your world? How's your Cheltenham bets been going?
Don't even mention it, mate. Don't even mention it. Less said about Cheltenham the better. But no, great to be back. I've must admit, since I knew we were coming back on, I've been buzzing about this, looking forward to it. You know, I've missed you too, like, strangely.
I know.
But no, good to be back.
Excellent. Oh, well, it's good to see you both. And great to see some people join us live. We've got Tom, El Grande, and of course, Paul, our pal. What's his nickname again, Razak?
Love. Hello,
man.
Love, son. Yeah, right.
I would love. My pal from Lidl. Absolute legend. So, yes, Scott will keep us right on this one, of course. But don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that little notification bell because you'll get all the updates as to when any content from the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and of course the audio stuff as well comes out. So it really helps us out as well. If you get those notifications, if you hit that notification bell, it really helps us out as well. And of course, if you're feeling fancy, of course you can subscribe. You can subscribe to the channel for $2.99 and you get access to the Telegram group, which is always buzzing, especially I think it'll be buzzing on Friday because those Friday night games are a little bit special. I think when they first started, Razza, I wasn't too sure about them, but now I'm a big fan of Friday night.
I must admit, I do like a bit like Scott said. It's nice. It's nice to have a game on a Friday because then you've got the rest of your weekend to do family stuff. I'm going to say that because they're probably watching, but really, I mean, to recover, to get over your hangover. But no, I must admit, I don't mind it, because let's face it. What else is there to do on a Friday night? You know what I mean? So
exactly. Now that we're deep into our 30s, Razza,
Aye. 40 this year.
40s, aye. I'm trying to
That's age not done, by the way. But aye.
I wouldn't possibly speculate as to your stat. Look, Razza, you look a little bit slimmed down. Actually, you do look like
just the way I've got the camera. That's all.
Really far away. So Scott, I suppose we might as well just touch on the Wolves game, which was the last game that we had. A really great result. Scott, where were you watching it? And just to briefly, what did you make of the game and any sort of takeouts that you took from that game?
So I wasn't watching it live. I was flying home because I was supposed to go to the game on the Saturday, but they moved it to the Sunday for telly. And I was home last weekend. I was in Newcastle, and they moved it to the time of my flight. So I saw the first half in the departure lounge and then on the plane. And then I had to turn it off when the plane took off. And then when I got home, I used the Dutch service to catch up and watch it back again.
The Dutch, that's a little bit ambiguous, isn't it? The Dutch service.
The Dutch service. It's what's it called? Viaplay.
Oh, right, I'll lay off then. I'll lay off.
Dutch commentary, so I have no idea what's happening. But you get to watch it. So
lots of hurdy-gurdy. Lots of hurdy-gurdy.
It's lots of Cruyffs and Seedorfs on the channel, which is always good to see.
Oh, sweet. Razza, did you take the little in?
Yeah, I was there with Ella on Sunday. It was a good day. I mean, look at the first half, could have been 5-6 now. Look, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But then, you can't help but sort of fall back into your old way of thinking. And I even said to one of the lads, Clarky, I said, we're going to rue these missed chances, because all we're crying out for was, for somebody to put the ball in the back of the net. And obviously, we won the game. That's the main thing, you know. Miggy coming on. Nice to see Miggy coming on and get the goal, actually. Because, you know, sort of, but he's not the only one, sort of, pre-World Cup, you know. A few of them were flying. You know, Wilson was banging them in. You had Miggy banging them in. And then there's one, no, but sort of, you know, we found it difficult to score. But it's nice to get a couple of goals. Against the Wolves side, who aren't too bad. That, you know, they're decent. But that's, you know, we've got a bit of momentum going into tomorrow and get another 3 points, because all the results went forward really at the weekend, you know. And although I said it at the start of the season, you know, I'm not bothered about finishing. I want to finish in European place now, you know. We're sort of, we can touch it. If somebody had said to us, that's it, I mean, if somebody had said to us at the start, you're going to get in the final, there's a possibility you might get into Europe, I would have sectioned them first and foremost, but, you know, you'll snap the hands off, and I think that's crossed, man. European away games.
Yeah,
that's crossed.
You know, it does feel, what is it, Scott? Is there 13 games left this season? We feel really close, don't we? So close.
We've got a couple of games in hand on. Is it Tottenham? We've got a couple of games in hand on there.
And Man U, actually, yeah. I think if we win tomorrow, I think we go above Man U on goal difference, or it might be if we beat Man U, because we're on like a 27 or 29 goal difference, and they're only on a 9 because they've had a few high scoring games of Man U, especially recently against Liverpool.
Yeah, Casemiro sent off as well, didn't it, the weekend?
Yeah, he's out.
Why is this happening now? Like, why couldn't this happen like 2 or 3 weeks? You know, about 3-4 weeks ago. Like, we could have been sitting here. I could have had a picture of the cup here. You know what I mean? But such is life, I suppose. Such is life. But of course, we've just done a match preview, Scott and I, with Joe as well. So you can check that out on the channel if you haven't already. Excellent analysis from myself and the two gentlemen, as always. Scott, isn't that right?
Always, mate. It's always a pleasure to have you on the previews.
Just talking a load of rubbish, really. But there you go.
At least you got your mic sorted for today, though. So
I know. Well,
Raz,
I've had fun in games before. I've got a Geek Posh webcam up here, and it was like zooming in and out, and it was an absolute nightmare. So, but now I'm in full HD. You can see me pause and my spots and everything. You can see absolutely everything. No stone has been left unturned on my face here. So there you go. Anyway, right. So, yes, unfortunately, there's just the three of us. A few people have said, why is there only three? Laura's otherwise engaged, and Ian, I believe is it Sophie's birthday today?
Little's birthday.
Yeah, Sophie's birthday.
So, happy birthday, Sophie.
Happy birthday, yes.
Happy birthday
to you. Jerry's treating her to a slap meal at Wimpy or wherever else you kids eat your dinners these days.
I was drinking Prime these days, aren't they?
What's the matter with Mad Dog 2020? Do you know what I mean?
Aye. Yeah,
you know, like Prime, going all the way down to Wakefield for a bottle of Prime. Get SL doing the corner shop for a bloody 2020, man. That'll sort you right out. Anyway, I digress randomly again. So there's been loads going on. I don't know if you lads have managed to catch a lot of Eddie Howe's press conference today. We didn't actually talk about this just before we came on there. I totally forgot about that. Just have to drop that on you. But it wasn't really, I don't think there was anything really, revelatory there about, they did ask him a question about Ryan Fraser. Scott, what do you think? Do you think that's Ryan Fraser done now? I mean, he was one of my favourite players. I even named my fantasy football team after him this season, but looks like he's definitely just persona non grata.
I think he's doing as well as your fantasy football team as well this season. So
get in there, Scotland. Go on.
I mean, I did have Cancelo. I did have Cancelo in my squad until yesterday when I had a look at it.
I remember you saying that. So that's why I said it. But I think Eddie Howe was. I think he was a bit annoyed with the question. He's like, I talked about this last week. I don't want to do it again, and it'll probably come again next week. Well, week after, because it's the international break. I didn't realise that the press conference was on today, because obviously a Friday game. I was waiting for it to, tomorrow when it all popped up on Twitter. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But I think Ryan Fraser's done and dusted in a Newcastle shirt. It would be one hell of a redemption if he was to come back from this. I think, I think it would only be injuries to St. Maximum, Gordon, Miggy, and Murphy and then potentially even Isak as well for him to even get a sniff.
Yeah.
So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Let's hope he's well, let's not hope he stays there, because that's not nice to say about anything. But and if I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of clubs won't touch him. I think he'll struggle to move on, because he's done now against Bournemouth, and now he's done it with us.
Yeah.
Could get a reputation. Could do more harm than good.
I mean, he might end up playing for Inverurie Locos up in Scotland somewhere. You never know. But Razza, do you think he might end up back probably in Scotland or somewhere like that? Do you reckon he's just done?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. And to be honest with you, I'm not really bothered. I remember when we signed him. He's not the type of player you want in the trenches with, is he? You know, he down tools at Bournemouth, which was shithousery tactics. You know, and then he got a reprieve, obviously, when Howe joined, and look, he's not great. You know, he's not the best footballer in the world. You know, I mean, he's not a Maxim or he's not a Miggy. You know, he's a good squad player. Let's put it that way. You know, but it makes you wonder what's went on, because I think Eddie Howe is a pretty straight up, genuine guy. You know, there's a lot of players who aren't playing who still got a lot of respect for Howe, and it makes you wonder what's happened for him to have said, "Look, get with the young'uns," you know? Because I mean, let's face it, that's the ultimate. You know, when that happens to you, you're not coming back. You know, I think even if there was injuries, they'd accommodate somebody else playing in that position rather than call him back. You know, so but like I say, I'm not surprised, because he's got previous for it, and I think Scott's right. Clubs will have a look and think, is he a bad apple? You get that reputation, don't you? You know, you get that tag about you. So a lot of people might stay clear. But I mean, so obviously Dan's just mentioned there, he's got a year or two on his contract, and his wages will be quite high. I think they'll maybe pay him off. You know, if that's the case, because regardless of the wage he's on, he's a space in the squad, I think. You know, so if they need to, they'll pay him off. You know, so and you know, I think it shows if you're not committed and you're bad at it, you're out. Doesn't matter who you are. Get out, you know. So there you go.
I suppose maybe it speaks a lot for like players like who we had last season, like Kieran Clark and stuff, who weren't even in the squad but were still professional enough. Obviously, we don't know what's gone on behind closed doors, so it's it's difficult to sort of nail it on as to what has actually gone on. But you know, it does tell a bit of a tale that he's just been. Yeah, that's it. You're in the reserves, you know. That's it. You're in the 21. So there we go.
It's one of those that we'll never know, will we? And we'll never ever know until he releases his memoirs in 10 years' time and no one buys it. But we'll never know.
If he get a booster seat so he can reach the desk, like, you know. So anyway,
write in crayons, won't he? No.
with a sort of a slight tenuous link to players being in our under 21 squad and being in a reserve squad. Ivan Toney has been in the news. Well, he was in the news earlier on this week, and of course, he's been in the news today because he's been.
I bet he was
rewarded with a call up to the England squad. For me, it's probably deserved. I think as he's done well. But the other sort of story that he was linked to was the Newcastle fan has been he's been given he sent a racist message after the Brentford game, and. He's been given a 4-month sentence, suspended for 2 years, and he's got a 3-year banning order. So, Raza, we do see a lot of this where, fans often after they've lost, they'll go on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and they'll slide into DMs of these footballers and send them some horrific abuse. It's a step in the right direction, isn't it? Surely.
100%. I mean. Social media and the platforms at times are great. I mean, look, I can keep in contact with you too. We live in different parts of the world. It's great. You can keep in contact with them, but they're not regulated, enough in the times that can be the most horrific places for people to be, especially if they're getting trolled. Would that, I mean, I didn't even know the fan's name. He's not worth the headlines really, but. Would he have walked up to Ivan Toney and said whatever he said in the tweet? I didn't even know what he said, to be honest with you. But would he have said it to his face? And you like say your Twitters and your Instagrams, your Facebook, they give these knackers a platform, to just it's abuse, it's horrible abuse, and they're giving them a platform to do that. So it's nice to see, you hear loads of especially especially football. There's a lot of racism, like the racist comments getting made to them. You had like Saka, Sancho, etc. After the Euros, they were bombarded with it. So it's nice to see something actually happening. But it's not before time. It's been long overdue. But it just, if anybody is thinking about doing it, it shows, that they can't trace you and they will find out who you are, So, but there you are. No, but I do think, Tony, getting back to your point about the England squad, very worthy. He's been in great form, and when you look at it, he deserves a call up. And why shouldn't he? And a few people, I've seen a few things today saying, well, he shouldn't because he's obviously got this FA charge for the betting and things like that coming up. Well, he hasn't. That case hasn't happened yet. So as long as he's playing for Brentford and he's scoring goals, why can't he play for England? So I get him in. Can't do any harm really, but let's hope he gets a game though, because there's no point in calling him up and sitting him on the bench.
Yeah, Scott, that's a bit of a bugbear of mine is when they do call these players up and then they give them 5 minutes towards the end. I'm not actually sure who we're actually playing in the games, but Scott, do you think, Tony's he's got to be worth a start, hasn't he?
He does. I think one of the games is Italy. I can't remember the other one though.
Is Ukraine not the other one?
Ukraine, that's it. Ukraine, Italy and Ukraine. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people are arguing he probably should have went to the World Cup and probably should have went ahead of Wilson in terms of his performances. I think that was a 50-50 call. And I think given what's come out about his gambling, that probably was the reason why he didn't go to the World Cup, because they probably knew about that. But you're right. He's admitted it, but he hasn't been charged yet, so he should still be allowed to do whatever, until that happens. It's not like he's committed a crime, like he's just done gambling. It's just gambling, right? He's broken rules, but he's done nothing illegal in terms of like the law.
You sound a bit like Matt Hancock there, Scott. Is it a guideline? Is it a law? Is it a rule? What's he broken?
But
he's snogging in the back room with being caught on CCTV.
I think the big problem with England is you've got Harry Kane. And Harry Kane's hitting form at the minute. He's scoring goals. So, I mean, can anyone dislodge him from that striker role until he starts playing two up top? Which I don't doubt he ever will. You're going to be fighting against Kane, and you're only going to get bit parts as a substitute. Which, that might be all he needs because he's still quite young. I mean, he must still be like 22, 23 or something. So
I've got a feeling he's 24, but I'm sure somebody will correct us on the on the comments there. And coming to the comments, obviously,
I would.
Blue Rhythm Boy, would you have him back at 2? And obviously, depending on the length of this ban, that he probably, I think it's safe to assume he will get a ban.
Was it like 200 odd offences or something like that? There's a canny few. So chances are, something's going to happen to him. But to answer that question in the comment there, you're not going to turn a goal scorer down, are you? We're desperate for one at the minute, and he's performing. He wouldn't need time to bed in, so I would have him as long as he could play.
100%. Just coming on, it's probably Chris has put this comment on actually about the gambling rules for players. Actually, it goes down as far as Palomine was manager of Slough, and he's now manager of like Beaconsfield Town down south, and even he can't make. He's got to watch about bets and stuff like that. So even that far down the pyramid, the rules are really, really stringent. So, and it does bring up a debate about we've got betting or a gambling sponsor on my shirts, and it's a funny one, isn't it, Razal, about the gambling and shouldn't they like.
I understand there'll be guidelines in. I don't know the ins and outs, but I get obviously as a footballer, you cannot bet on your own team or any game you're involved in case you want to throw it or stuff like that. We've seen it in the past, where people have put I think it was the Tissier had said, he used to, as soon as the kick off, he'd hit a ball out because he had it for like a throw in after so many seconds. I'm not sure what the all the guidelines are, but it is a bit hypocritical though, isn't it? We're saying, well, you cannot have a bet. You're not allowed to bet or anything like that, or get any friends out to put a bet on for you. But by the way, go and wear that £70 football shirt that we're flogging in the club shop. We're betting, the betting logo and that on it. Aye, and I mean, how many adverts during games? Yeah. Sky Bets, your Bet 365, and you've got them all. It's all over. It's getting a bit like, you remember when they said they were going to try and stop sort of breweries and drinks manufacturers being on the front of shirts and all that. Well, they're going to keep letting betting companies do it, because you know what, they get a load of money off them. And money talks. So
it certainly does.
It's strange because over here you don't get that at all. Like if you watch the football, there's no gambling adverts.
Nothing
at all. I don't know about on the shirts, but definitely like cut to an ad break. Because the one thing I really hate when watching like football in the UK is when the players walk out and then they go, "Oh, we'll be back after this," and there's just like one advert, and it's always a betting advert. Always a betting advert, and then it just.
Which is I love Ray Winston. It's unnecessary, isn't it?
It's much betting play now.
Yeah, but, I think a big part of it is there's not really. I mean, over here in the Netherlands, there's not really a gambling culture when it comes to that sort of stuff either. It's like there's no like lads at work don't talk about what ACAS they've had on over the weekend or that sort of stuff. And I think a big part of it is you've got to pay tax if you earn over like 400 euros. If you win, you pay tax on it. So people don't do it because it's not worth it. You give half it back to the government. So I think if the government started doing that in the UK, it might start to dwindle down a bit. But it's I think it's a bit more deep rooted than football, and it's probably another discussion for another podcast about gambling.
Yes, maybe you can stick it on Canny Chatter there, and you can have it. You can chew the fat over that. Speaking of chewing the fat, obviously that somebody in the comments there about I think it must be Chris who's in control of this, because it's talking about eating pies. Remember the keeper in the FA Cup today at the pie, and he had a bet on himself, and I think he got in a bit of trouble, I suppose. I suppose that brings us very nicely into our topic for today, which I kind of put on Twitter a few days ago. It's really difficult when I put stuff on Twitter and I'm like, I'm like 4 or 5 hours behind. So I put it on at like 6 o'clock, but like it's late on in the night, it's like 10, 11 o'clock, and people might not see it. So I've tried to retweet it the last couple of days, and Gallowgateshots have as well, and a few of the lads have. We've been doing we did a feature quite a few successive weeks called the Hall of Fame, and we had favourite Frenchman, favourite goals, favourite this, favourite that. And because Nick Pope had been getting a little bit of hammer over the last few weeks, and we'd had a few little mishaps from our custodian, I thought we'd go with best ever goalkeeping performances. Now, a lot of them come down to saves, individual saves. I think it's difficult with goalkeepers because you don't really remember the great games that they have, because they're all just encapsulated into one save or one mistake. They're never sort of like, he judged those angles really well, didn't he? People are all about the money. They want the strikers. So we thought we'd shed a bit of light on our goalkeepers of past and more recent present. And we've had some really, really good shouts. So thanks to those people who contributed on Twitter as well. Especially got one from Malcolm, Laura's dad, and Raza's father backed this one up about McFall. So, Raza, is there any ones that you particularly want to talk about? Goalkeeping performances that stand out for you in particular?
For me, I think Tim Krul away at the Tottenham. We won 1-0 with a Loic Remy goal, but Tim Krul, that game was absolutely outstanding. He got funnily enough, he got man of the match, and rightly so. And I think he got at the time it was a record of 14 saves, I think, in a game. But one thing that sticks to mind is a free kick from Tottenham. It comes over the wall and it gets a deflection, and Krul's literally gone one direction, and he manages to stop it, get a hand to it, and then it's cleared. But no, he was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And obviously, just going back to what Laura's dad and Mayo Man had mentioned, Willie McFall, I'm referring to my phone here, in the Fairs Cup semi-final, first leg away at the Rangers, he saved the penalty as well, and he was outstanding. And obviously, you can tell by my boyish good looks, I wasn't around that time, so I've got to take me father and Malcolm's word for it. But no, for me, Tim Krul, outstanding. Couple of others as well. I mean, Shea, outstanding as well. Yeah. I'm sure Scott will probably have a few as well. But and just to mention to Tommy Wright as well, he he's one of me all-time heroes as well. Of when I first started following the tour and had my season ticket, he was outstanding too.
Classic, and that was a classic goalkeeping jersey. The green with a red pinstripe.
Lovely. Yeah, aye. When goalkeeping tops were proper, when they were green, you know what I mean?
The roll neck, and then the
built-in elbow pads. Yeah,
proper elbow pads. Remember the shoulder pads used to be stitched in, and elbow pads and that. Now it's just a t-shirt. In
just
fact,
a shirt, aye.
Long sleeves, you know. So
unless you got, was it the Sun Deco one where it had the actual bits of plastic stitched on the shoulders and the elbows as well?
Aye,
you remember those?
Oh, classic, man. Absolutely classic. And the gloves, how heavy were the gloves, man? You know, like the old, and they were like,
especially when they got wet.
Aye, horrendous.
But no.
Absolutely right. The ones that were like gardening gloves, you know, they used to have the little plastic, like the little rubber, black
tiny little bit on your fingers. They're still knacked when you got hit with a ball, but great days, man. We're showing my age, those fellas.
Mentioning Cruel there, of course, it would be cruel not to mention the Palermo game where he made his debut, came in, you know, very last minute. And I think Andy Carroll played in that game. I believe it was under Roda. Possibly.
Was it Roda? I think it was. Glenn Roda. God bless him.
So, yes, absolutely brilliant. So, Scott, any games, any goalkeeper performances that kind of stand out for you? Obviously, we are all of a similar-ish generation, so apologies to those who maybe have seen great keepers of the past perform, but unfortunately, we can only speak from what we know. So, Scott, any particular performances that shine for you?
I think the biggest one of recent times is probably Dubravka's debut. I don't know if you were going to talk about this as well, Roger, but it's quite standout because no one knew who he was. Like I don't think anyone really knew who he was. It was just this goalkeeper who'd been, I think it was at Sparta Prague we got him from, something like that, where you know, obviously Rafa knew who he was, and Rafa had his eye on him and brought him in 2 million, I think, or it might have even been on loan, I think, initially, wasn't it? And then was signed in the season after. I mean, against Man U, St James's Park, what a performance. I can remember just that. I think Martial gets through one-on-one and you just think, oh, it's game over, and he gets a foot to it and it just goes out wide. It was good. I think the other thing I liked about that performance, and something you saw with Dubravka quite a lot, and he never was able to pull it off. He always wanted to distribute the ball quick. He would catch a ball and he'd run out, and he'd always want to, you know, roll it to someone or get the ball out. And you know, you just saw that, okay, we've probably got a good little goalkeeper on our hands here, and obviously the rest is history. I don't know if we're still doing honourable mentions in this, because I know we always used to.
Of course.
Why not?
But I want to give an honourable mention to Nick Pope for this season.
Definitely.
Those saves against Palace in the EFL Cup. We wouldn't have got to a final if it wasn't for those penalty saves. And obviously,
he saved against Palace this season as well, away from home.
Yeah, I mean, didn't he get save of the month last month or month before? I'm sure he got save of the month. I can't remember which game it was for, but I mean, that's an honourable mention. Then one more for me is Carl Darlow in the Championship. He told us what game it was, and I've forgotten it already. Where he kind of goes to get the ball and he slides outside of his box and lets it go, but he recovers back and makes an outstanding double save. I remember sitting in the stadium and just standing up and applauding him just for what he did.
Yeah, never has one player covered his own arse so spectacularly.
Absolutely.
Pretty good. I suppose while we're on honourable mentions, it was, you know, it is actually sometimes easy to remember opposition goalkeepers having a worldie because, you know, you've missed that many chances, or you've had, you know, and obviously the main one that everyone probably of our era will understand and cry about still, probably in their cornflakes every morning, is Peter Schmeichel against the 93-94, or was it 94-95 Newcastle team, where they beat us 1-0 and basically won the title there and then, I would say. And it was, I mean, that was just an unbelievable performance. Raza, I'm assuming you would have been the Gallowgateshots for that game.
No, family enclosure still at that point. Still the family enclosure. And the
little Raza.
Aye, but no, I mean, for me, obviously, that I think was a turning point. Because remember that season as well, they had Eric Cantona, who was serving like a suspension for the fracas at Sellers Park, and added to him coming back and obviously Schmeichel was he was a mountain, wasn't he? I just remember, like, you know, when you play football with kids, like, when whoever was in goal always tried to do Schmeichel, which literally just used to come out with his arms and his legs out. Goal, massive, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I think that was a massive turning point for them. You know, added with a bonus of Cantona coming back, that you know, they just managed to get the results, and we dropped a few points, but Schmeichel was immense. But we got one back on him. The year later when we the 5-0. So
yeah.
Aye, that was
the Albert lob.
That was nice to see as well.
I mean, ultimately, it didn't count for much, but it was an amazing day, amazing day. I suppose well-run honourable mentions, opposition players, of course, a big shout for Jose Enrique playing in goal for Liverpool after the sending off of Reina for a vicious assault on James Perch, if I remember correctly. And of course, Vinnie Jones for Wimbledon. Of course, he spent time between the sticks, and I think he might have conceded, but he did cover himself in a fair amount of glory, and he was always good for the banter, I guess, wasn't he, old Vinnie? So an honourable mention there. And of course, we've had players who've played in goal. Peter Biedzy has played in goal. I think there was another one. I'm going to say Kevin Brock, but I think I might be wrong. Somebody
was it?
There was a game where, there was definitely a game where we had in that sort of late 80s, early 90s, where I'm sure it was Kevin Brock might have had to play in goal, but Peter Biedzy definitely was that down at West Ham. I think we might have been 3-3 down at West Ham, and Peter Biedzy had to go in goal for whatever situation occurred. But I'm sure somebody in the comments will definitely remember that game. So we've had some honourable mentions for some opposition goalkeepers. I suppose I'm going to mention quite an unfashionable one, but actually this is the one that caused a lot of research and discussion. Super duper Mike Hooper, the former bouncer in Chelsea Street, I believe. Later on in his career, he was a bouncer, but he did spend a little bit of time between the sticks for Newcastle United. I would say fondly remembered, but I'd be absolutely lying. I think his first game was probably one of his better games. He kept a clean sheet against West Ham, but he's often remembered for a save when he came on as substitute for Pavel Srnicek when Pavel Srnicek was sent off, and super duper Mike Hooper came on and saved a Klinsmann penalty to keep the scores at 3-3, I believe. So he saved Wabacon there, and he got a few mentions. And Scott Arras, do you remember him? He punted. I feel like it was against Everton, where he just either out of his hands or off the floor, he punted and it nearly went in the goal. I'm sure somebody hopefully in the comments might remember. But do either of you remember that Mike Hooper? I mean, the size of him was he was a unit.
I was going to say I vaguely remember it, but I also vaguely remember him being absolutely shite after his first game.
He was terrible.
He was poorly. I've no idea why Keegan signed him.
Terrible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it was the cup game was the one that I think was the final nail in the coffin for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was against. Maybe it was like Exeter or someone like that. But he couldn't stay in his box, could he? He just kept coming out.
He was terrible. I mean, is he the worst goalkeeper we've ever had? Would you say? Like, who's played a decent amount of games? You know, now we had Perez and we've had bad keepers, but like he played. I mean, did he play more than 20 games? He must have done. You know, like, wow.
Can you remember John? Was it John Carrells? Can you remember him?
Yes, John Carrells. Aye. Yeah.
Was he a Hullet signing?
I think he was. Yeah, Carrells. Yeah, he was a Hullet signing. He come in, played a few games, but we have had some absolutely terrible players between the sticks. Yeah, Matt Sells. The comment.
I forgot about him.
It's just appeared in the comments. No, I think is he not playing? You know, quite a good level in Belgium. Although a good level in Belgium is a good level in Belgium, I guess. You know, everything's
a good level in Belgium is where they cut the top off your paint when the froth's just gone over. That's a good level in Belgium.
That pretty much is. That pretty much nails it, really. So I think, and obviously, you know, Raza sort of mentioned him at the very start there. Scott, would you say Shea Given's probably, you know, our current custodians be very, very good, but over a long period of time, Shea Given's got to be up there with, you know, he's one of our top appearance. He may actually be the top appearance player, but great goalkeeper, great memories of
Absolutely,
Shea
and
Given.
he's not built like a keeper. Like he's quite short for a keeper, and I think that makes it all the more special with Shea Given because he can just seems to be able to reach all corners of the goal wherever he needs to be. He's up there with Pav for me. It's him, Pav, and Shaka Hislop because they're the two for me growing up with it.
Yeah.
Maybe he's one of the best keepers in the world, those two, but they were still good keepers, and they were still good for us. So yeah. But Shea Given, I mean, the fact he went to Man City and he did the bits there as well. And did he go to Villa as well, Shea Given?
He went to Villa, yeah.
But and the fact that he kind of, even though he's had those other teams in his career after us, when he's on the TV, he's always referred to Newcastle as us, and he's always part of the legends of that era. So yeah, I mean, I love him a bit. So I think he's absolutely fantastic keeper.
Didn't he suffer in a horrific injury as well down at West Ham?
I was at that game actually. I was at that game when
was it Marlon Harewood?
Harewood absolutely ploughed into him. I don't think it wasn't like a nasty.
It was intentional. But just the way he had to like get an operation or something, didn't he? Bust his gut, as they say.
There was the mistake as well. Remember when he rolled the ball out to clear it, and I think it was Dion Dublin come from behind him.
I remember that.
Yeah, the only Irishman who doesn't know where Dublin is the joke went. But those were good times, and of course I think the one that probably stands out, apart from when he headed the ball onto the post or the bar. I'm trying to think whether it was the post or the bar, but. That performance against Spurs in the FA Cup quarter final, I think it was, at St James's Park at the Leazer's End, from Jermaine Defoe, I believe. Raza, outstanding save, wasn't it?
He made like a double save from Robbie Keane, and then like a second later was from Jermaine Defoe as well. Outstanding. I mean, when you think like obviously something that Scott was on about before, longevity of him. When you think about it, when he come to the club, you had like Pav, Shaka, Steve Harper was there, and then the trust was putting him. Was he the goalie when we beat Barcelona 3-2 at St James's?
He was. Yeah,
you forget sort of how a lot of people just sort of remember him like under the Robson era and things like that, But he's
seen some shite as well, hasn't he? God,
bless
him. He's had some terrible defenders in front of him.
He's had some shite defending him in front of him, but no, he's for longevity, and like Scott said. Not the tallest of people for a goalkeeper. You think like a man mountain, but as a shot stopper, he was outstanding, And I do like it as well when you get the ex-pros on, on the commentary, and they refer to us, they still feel part of it, Les Ferdinand's another one, we're home for them, you know what I mean, and that's good. They haven't forgotten well I loved.
Yeah, of course. Quite a lot of mentions, obviously, for Pavel Srnicek. I remember a game against Everton. I think it was a 1-0 win, and he pulled off some absolute tremendous saves. In many ways, maybe Pav was kind of like a little bit ahead of his time in many ways. The way
I remember Pav when the back pass used to come to him, and he used to do the little feint.
Yeah,
and your heart would be in your mouth, and he loved it, didn't he? He loved it. Another one, Dr. Geordie, brilliant man.
Yeah, I remember actually when he came back the second time, and he looked a little bit stiffer than than his younger days. And I remember the ball coming back to him and being like, "Oh gosh," that was like a bit hairy. But he was a great keeper. To come over obviously from the Czech Republic, and we changed managers very soon into when he came to the club.
He was just a Bernie Sell really at the time.
He had a lot of competition, but like you say, he became a club legend, and rest in peace, old Pav there. So what a great keeper, I suppose we might as well talk very quickly about Nick Pope. And like we did briefly mention a couple of his saves and things. And do you think we're looking at the next sort of, the keeper to rival Shea Given in terms of if he can stay at Newcastle for a long time, or do you think there'll be another keeper comes in that's maybe he's got a lot wider skill set than Nick Pope? Scott, what do you think? Do you think?
I think just given Pope's age, I don't think we're going to have him for for long enough for him to cement himself like a Shea Given. But he'll be up there. He'll definitely. I mean, he's already up there in my eyes just for what we've achieved this season. But yeah, I think, you know, if he can shake this, he seems to have a nervousness at the moment about him on, you know, on the ball with his feet. If he can shake that off, because we haven't seen it all season and it seemed to just come at the worst time. Yeah, you know, no doubt that he'll, you know, he's obviously going to continue next season. He'll probably get the number 1 next season. I'd like to see him, because he's 22.
Yeah,
number 22 at the minute, if I remember rightly. So yeah, you know, at least give him that. And I think, you know, he's here for at least another 3-4 years, I would assume. And then whoever, you know, we're signed to replace Dubravka and replace Caldalo and replace even Karius, are no doubt going to be, you know, probably youngsters who are just about there to get back where we were, and then they'll come in and they'll take the reins from Pope when the time comes. But no, absolutely. I'd like to see him have a nice long career with us, at least to get, you know, he deserves a final, if anything, because he got with there. He just messed it up right at the end, so he deserves to play in a final. So we'll do that next season.
I suppose, you know, another mention for a current keeper, but he's on loan. Caldalo had some good performances.
Yeah.
Raza, anyone's
great in the championship.
He was. Caldalo, Raza, anyone's a sort of spring to mind for you for Caldalo?
No one that I can think of, to be honest with you.
I'm thinking of the Forest. Remember the Forest game? Was it away in the championship? Was it in the cup? And he pulled off a cup. Did he save 2 penalties?
Oh,
that was a cup game, but we were in the championship, wasn't it? If I remember right.
Did we go out to 10 men as well?
Yeah.
Aye.
I think we might have done. I think we might have done.
I think Dolo at the time was all right.
What?
There he is.
There we go. Hello.
Harry.
Hello, boys.
How are you doing?
I'm not bad. How are you?
Aye, so man.
Can he?
I had a spare 15 minutes, so I thought I'd just jump in and have a chat about goalkeepers.
Come in. The water's lovely. Come in.
Yeah.
So the one thing about Dolo, which I remember, I've been listening behind the scenes. Did he not make a mistake where he had to then go and save his own mistake against somebody?
Against Rotherham. Rotherham in the league, in the EFL. That was it was an outstanding double save, I think, wasn't it? But it was predicated by an absolute horrific one, like absolutely horrific. And Fishing Rods, you're absolutely right. He's listening all the time. He's like, quick brother. Shh.
I'm never far away.
You have to be quiet. But yeah, I think so. I suppose, you know, if we look at the players that we've mentioned here, I'm going to sort of bring it down to Tim Krul, the best goalkeeper performance. I'm going to let you decide between Tim Krul against Spurs and Shea Given against Spurs. Those are me 2 that I'm going to go with. Honourable mentions, obviously, for Willie McFall against Burnley in 74 and against Rangers in 69, I believe it was. But Scott, if you had to go with one, which one would you go with?
Just because Tim Krul couldn't keep hold of his phone and he kept smashing it, I'm going to go with Shea Given, just for that reason. And I used to work in a fruit phone repair shop, and he always come in with a broken phone. So I'm going to go with Shea Given because I would imagine he can keep hold of his phone. So that's my choice.
Chris, what do you reckon? Given the choice of those 2 goalkeeper performances,
Timmy Krul all day long. It might be a generational thing, but that performance against Spurs was unbelievable. All around, like how we ended up winning that game, didn't we? 1-0 was it?
1-0, yeah, 1-0. Yeah,
Remy, man, what a player Remy was.
How we won that game is phenomenal, because it was backs against the wall for the majority of it, and every single time that they came forward, I absolutely panicked. But Tim Krul didn't. Yeah, he was like a brick wall between those goalposts. Like,
yeah. Raza, which one are you going with?
Probably my Cooper Norman. Tim Krul. Tim Krul. Simple as that. Like, you know, how did we win the game? We won the game because of Tim Krul. Simple as that. You know, it's like he was outstanding that game. Amount of saves he pulled off. And I don't know. I just remember everybody talking about it in the press, you know, from the newspapers to, like, obviously our pundits and stuff like that. You know, it was just outrageous. We should never, to be honest, we weren't even a better team. You know what I mean? We should have gotten beat. But he literally pulled out the mire. So Timmy Krul.
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think that double save I give him was absolutely amazing. But that in terms of a 90-minute performance, that was for me. That was the first one that sprung into my mind when I thought about this topic. And I think probably for a lot of players, maybe a lot of fans, probably like a generational thing, like you're saying, Chris. But that Tim Krul performance was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, and the snidiness of we didn't deserve to win the game and we won it as well. Because
I think the week before as well, would beat Chelsea 2-0 the week before, so it was two clean sheets on the back as well, which was brilliant.
Yeah,
check those stats out, man, Roger. You're impressed, aren't you?
You what?
You're impressed with me stats, aren't you?
Oh, mate, you are absolutely on fire. Yeah, you've brought in this 14 saves, and then you remembered succinctly the ball deflecting and the angle.
God bless Google. God bless Google.
It's just absolutely outstanding.
Tim Krul was a bit of a shithouse as well, wasn't he? When you think about it.
Aye.
He used to always wind players up as much as you possibly could. And then you look at our goalkeepers now. You look at Dubravka, Karius, and Nick Pope. They seem like nice guys.
Yeah.
Tim Krul seems like the complete opposite.
Yeah. That's probably the Dutch, a little bit of Dutch arrogance in him. Probably.
Remember when he got subbed on, didn't he? In the was it the Euros?
Yeah, the penalty shootout, didn't it?
Oh, and he got in the heads of the opposition every single penalty.
Yeah. I think that's it. El Grande's referenced that one. Yeah, that was that. Who was the manager of Holland then? What's his chops?
Van Gaal, was it?
Van Gaal, aye.
Yeah, Louis Van Gaal.
Absolute shithouse, but aye. Little late shout for Fraser Forster, who's actually getting a run of games now for Spuds.
Spurs,
Fraser
Forster.
For
Celtic, I must admit. Forster, he was brilliant.
No shout for Matt Sells.
Well, there was an earlier shout for Matt Sells, but I think it was sincerely and severely tongue in cheek.
I wish Matt Sells would have shouted. I'll tell you that.
Not a great keeper. Right, well, gentlemen, I think we've come to 40 odd minutes, so I think we've done pretty well for a first show back. I'm going to save a couple of the topics I was going to cover this week for next week because I think we need a little bit of lead-in time for it. I'll mention it now, though, and anybody wants to get in touch with me on Twitter or anything, feel free to do so. There was a Marseille fan who's gone on hunger strike, I saw, and because to protest at how bad a football one of their players is. I'll try and pronounce it. Leonardo Bellaredi, I think he's called. So he must be absolutely shocking. And this guy's gone on hunger strike. So I want you to think for next week. Now, I'm going to do some conditions around this because anyone can name terrible players like Fumaca and God knows how many others.
You're struggling, mate.
I was going to say, that was
easy. Des Hamilton, Carl Sarand, Ian Rush. The names roll off the tongue once you haven't set yourself up for a fall there. But I want you to pick the worst player that's played over 38 games for us. So that could be over 2 seasons or various different seasons.
I haven't got to stop eating, have I? Otherwise, I'm not doing it.
No, you don't have to literally go on hunger strike. But
that's our eating. Happy days.
I mean, well, Raza, the bailiffs will be at the door after your Cheltenham escapade, so you might not be able to afford any food anyway. So
honestly, they haven't mentioned the horses, will they?
So if you can go away and have a think, do a little bit of homework, and I want a player who's played over 38 games for Newcastle United, who is the worst player that you have seen in your opinion. And we'll come back next week and we'll have a good old hash about that, and we'll decide who goes in the Hall of Fame for being the worst player who's played a season for Newcastle United in games.
I've already got mine.
Don't spoil it now. I think I've got mine, but I'm not sure if he's played the right amount of games. I'm gonna have to see if he's played, include substitute appearances as well to top it up. But 38 games on his record for Newcastle United. That you've got to.
You've already got yours. I can tell by
he's got something.
Parameters he's setting out, and that you've already.
I think my might done 38 seasons in my games.
Right. So, yes, so I'll see you all next week. We'll probably do Thursday or Friday, depending on my schedules and stuff. But really, really good to have you all back at ExtraTyne. And thank you very much, Chris, for coming and checking our homework. Much appreciated. Very nice to see you as well. And you look very resplendent there in your Castor gear. Get a Castor.
Repping before it falls apart.
Do you like me? Do you like me dungeon?
Mate, can I ask a question about your frames? Did you take the frames with you, or did you print everything off again?
No, I took the frames with us. I took them all down. So the house at home, back in Gated, has got all of the other sides of the command strips, on the wall.
All right, okay.
It's just squares where he's painted random. He didn't even take.
I couldn't be bothered. I couldn't be bothered.
It looks nice, mate. It looks nice on the white background. I appreciate it.
There you go. And I've got Nobby I've got my Nobby flag in the corner that made its way to Wembley with us. There he is. There's our Nobby there.
The size of his trumpet.
Absolutely huge. People thought it was a fisheye. I was like, no, it's Nobby, man.
Roger, you should get it made into a towel for when you go on your holidays.
Oh, mate, didn't you worry about that?
Oh, Devin.
Didn't you worry about it? Razza's coming on holiday with us this year, man. You cannot.
He's got the towels already, man. Already.
I cannot wait.
He loves the towel, doesn't he?
I love it. But thank you very much for all those people who've joined us again on the stream, who've joined us live. We've got Tom, Paul, Davey. Davey Eddie is hopefully out in Tenerife still, enjoying the sun. Fishing rods. I'm not sure Marty was on today, but I'm sure you'll catch up later. Dan, Derek, Blue Rhythm Boy had some good input as well. I always appreciate that. So thanks very much for those people who've joined us. Mike, for joining us. He gave a shout for Freddie Woodman about whether he'd sort of lived up to his potential. I think he's doing okay at Preston at the minute, but probably not that top level of goalkeeper. I did have high hopes for him, but he didn't make it, unfortunately. So thank you very much for all those people for joining us this evening. I really, really appreciate it. And don't forget to tune in next week. And of course, there'll be plenty more content on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. I'm sure the lads will probably do a match reaction. Chris, will there be a match reaction straight after the Forest game, do you think?
I think so. I'm going to try and do a live one this week because obviously with it being a away game, I think all of us will, well, I'm not saying we'll all be available, but we'll all be watching it at home most likely. Yeah. So hopefully we'll do a live one so we'll get even more interaction from the likes of the subscribers on that one, Roger.
Bella. And of course, the All Smiling Faces podcast will be back after the game. Hopefully Decker will be whispering those wonderful words of after Forest, but we shall see. And of course, there's all the other. I've got Canny Chatter coming back as well. The lads will be doing that one, and then there's other content coming as well, isn't there, Chris? So loads to look out for on the channel. So stay tuned, get yourself subscribed, hit that notification button, tell a friend when you're out walking a dog.
Tell the dog. Get the dog.
Tell the dog. Yeah, tell the dog to subscribe. It all helps. But thanks very much, Scott, for joining us. Thank you for handling the technical side of it as well. And Raza, thank you very much for joining us from your Borstal, and I appreciate it. And say hello to Borstal Bill for us as well. Give him a little cuddle from me.
I will.
And Chris, thank you very much for coming and checking our homework for us. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, mate. Always there.
Been good, lads. Cheers.
I know it's been good to see you,
everyone.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back.
I know. I'm going to go upstairs now and see how my mother's getting on with the band. She flies back to England tomorrow, so I'll be very, very sad. So she's got both of the Borstal kids upstairs, so we'll see how that's.
I'll look after her, Roger. Don't worry.
On that bombshell, I think we'll end. All right, okay, fair enough. I'm not sure.
How are the lads?
Chris, she watches this as well. So, Gillian, now to do with me. That'll be Chris. Right. Anyway, thanks very much, and thanks to those people for joining us. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, guys.
One, Scott, I'll let you cue it up the video because I'm useless at it. But thanks very much,
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
See you later.
Bye.